Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Zoe and in today's video I want to talk about my favorite books in 2021, and I hope I'm not too late for this video. But I need to split it into two because I cannot decide which book is my favorite one. So I will do in this video my fantasy, 5 stars, and contemporary, and then the next one it's romance, thrillers and non-fiction. So let's start with my fantasy. I think the first fantasy book that I really give 5 stars in 2021 was From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. I need to say, first of all my annotations and stuff like that, I got really crazy in this one. And I think I just put the marks in it and write something on post-it notes, but I didn't write actually in the book. And this was my first copy that I ever did this in 2021. Before that I never do that. And I really enjoyed my time with it. This is different. I would say it's kind of a little bit different from the previous work that Jennifer Armentrout did. You notice that this is definitely more adult book, not like the other ones of her works. But if you don't like Jennifer Armentrout books, I'm 400% sure you will not like this either. And From Blood and Ash, it's about Poppy, who is the maid and the chosen one of the world to save everyone, but she doesn't know how to do this. And then there is Hawk, who needs to be her guardian, and they fell in love kinda, and then the story goes on. And this is, I think, kind of the same way to describe a book like I always have struggled with describing it, like with the Throne of Glass series. Like when someone asks me about what's about in the Throne of Glass series, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's about in this first book, but after that I would say not anymore. And I really enjoy the story about Poppy and Hawk. I love them both. I need to say that I didn't enjoy The Crown of Bitter Bones, and I think there's so many people out there who didn't enjoy it. But I think the main problem of it, and I will say it over and over again till I'm proven wrong, that the problem of The Crown of Bitter Bones was that when this book was published, there was the plan for Jennifer Armentrout to only publish 3 books in the series, and so The Crown of Bitter Bones will be the last one. And then she decided, no, let's do 6 books out of it. I think I read in the year 2021 the entire Shadowhunter world, not all of them. I think City of Bones, City of Ashes, I think that's the 2 books I read in 2020. I'm not sure enough, but the rest I read definitely in 2021. And one book that is on this list is Clockwork Princess. And this is more an honorable mention here at the moment, because I can't remember what made this book so good that it's actually a 5 star for me. So I will, in order to say I can decide which book is my favorite one of 2021, so I mention all my 5 stars. But this will be probably a book where I don't know what the fuck I thought about it. I know that I really liked it in the end. When there's one thing in my mind where I say, okay, I really like this, there's some blue tabs in it, and I remember crying a lot during this book. And I think this was more between the relationship between Tessa and Jem. And I'm a Jem girl. Will can rot in hell, in my opinion. I don't like the Herondale boys, okay? I'm sorry. But I really like that in the story. But yeah, this will be probably a book, just a honorable mention. And to stay with the Cassandra Clare books, I have a lot of shadows on this list. This is the 2nd book of the Dark Artifice series that plays after the original Shadowhunter series, like City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Fallen Angels. That series that plays afterwards. This plays there's no Clary and Jace in the main focus of the story. It's about Emma, Casteres and Julian Blackthorne. And this is a friends to lovers story, and I fucking loved it. This was the shit for me. This book series was from all of the work that Cassandra Clare did in this whole franchise. This was my series. This was the best one so far. And Lord of Shadows was in fact the best book for me in the series, because this book was the perfect way that described it perfect, how difficult it is to get from the friend status into the lover status. And she did this perfectly in this one. And not in a cringy way like she did with every other love interest in all her other works. I really loved it. I cried so much while reading this. And Emma and Julian, they have my heart. So, Lord of Shadows. I would definitely say don't read this if you haven't read the original series, the City of Bones to City of Heavenly Fire. I will definitely read this afterwards. But yeah, I love this. And to stay in the Shadowhunter world, yeah, I think this was the last one. I read the Magnus Bane Chronicles, and there are 3 chapters in it that I really like the most. This was the 4th, the 8th and the 9th chapter that I gave 5 stars, because my not stupid brain, I bought the chapters alone and realized afterwards that I could probably buy this whole book instead, but I ended up with the same price, so I didn't pay much more than it. So this is the reason why I rated only chapter wise. So if I would read it in the book, I would read the whole book, and I don't know if I would rate this in the same way like I did with the only chapters. So this is why I rated the 4th, the 8th and 9th 5 stars. But what I loved the most on I think the 4th one, the 4th book is the Midnight Heir. And what I loved the most on the Midnight Heir was that I most enjoyed it because I read, before reading the Magnus Bane Chronicles, I read Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron and The Dark Artifice. And so I get these kind of extra information that Magnus had in the books, in the Chain of Iron and stuff like that. He had that information in his mind, and then you read this out of his perspective, and this was fucking amazing. I really loved the information, and it made so much more sense reading this while reading the previous work, Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron. So this made much more sense. So this is why I ended up giving this book 5 stars. The 8th book is Water by a Shadowhunter who has everything. I just love Alec and Magnus. This was the whole reason that I gave this book, of this chapter, 5 stars, because I just love them both so much. These 2 characters saved the whole Shadowhunter series for me. I think without them I would DNF that shit. So yeah, and the last one is The Last Stand of the Yorker Institut. So this plays after Clockwork Angel and Chain of Gold, and before these the Shadowhunter Chronicles. This plays before that, and it's about the last war at the Yorker Institut under the control of Valentine. And I think the most thing why I gave this 5 stars was that I was so shocked by it, how brutal this chapter was, and I enjoyed it. I just love reading about teenager war. This is so amazing. So I ended up giving this 5 stars. So, A Court of Silver Flames. This was also a 5 star for me, and this was the most surprise of the whole year, because I hated Nesta. This is also really heavy annotated and marked, also with post-it notes which I write on. And what I loved the most on this book was that I didn't like Nesta. I say this often, and I will say it again. I didn't like Nesta in the beginning of this book, but her journey, I will not say that she's the best character of all time, because she is problematic and she's definitely not a good person, and I will not say that, but I struggled a lot during 2021, and reading her perspective of the story, I felt also that she really struggles a lot, and I was kind of the same, even though we didn't have quite the same problems. And her journey was that thing that makes the best out of the book, because I didn't need the magic things that happened in this book. There are some things happen in it with magic stuff, but I would say I didn't need it. So if Sarah J. Maas only wrote this whole book about only the journey about Nesta and how her found family, which is not the same as Freya's one, I would say I will also rate it as 5 stars, because the magic thing, this was so unnecessary for me. I didn't need this. And yeah, this was 5 stars for me, and I love it, and I will recommend it to everyone who wants to read it. This is great. These smut scenes, I need to say the smut scenes were kinda, they gave me kinda secondhand embarrassing, so it was sometimes too much. I reread King of Scars in 2021 before reading Wood of Wolves, and I stayed with my 5-star rating. I originally gave this 5 stars, and I stay with it. I love King of Scars, I love Nikolai, I love Soya in the story. I love all the perspectives that are given in this book, and I just love it. Did I like Wood of Wolves? Not that much, to be honest. But Nikolai is the best character of the whole world, and yeah, I'm so excited to see the second season of the Shadow and Bone series. So then I read The Kingdom of Copper. This is part of the Daverbud trilogy, and this is just not annotated. If this book will not be so hard, I would read it in this way, but I listened to the audiobook version of it. So we read this for Mel Patron, and City of Brass is the first one. City of Brass is the first book in the series, and Kingdom of the Copper is the second one. And I really enjoyed the story. I love the character development that it was in the story. I just love the overall situation that how does she call again? With her first name, I mean S.A. Chakraborty. What was her name again? Oh, never mind, it's not in there. I really like what she writes in it, and I'm so excited to see what her next works are. I know that I think in the beginning of the year now there will be another book in the Daverbud world, just with short stories, and I'm really excited to see it. So yeah, I can definitely recommend the whole Daverbud trilogy to you. And yeah, I will not talk in depth about this book because it's the second one in the trilogy, and this is an adult fantasy, so I don't want to spoil something. So yeah, I will link the book down in the description down below if you want to check it out. The Way of Kings, also 5 stars for me. When you watched my 2021 recap / reading plans for 2022, you will see that I said in this video that this was not a copy that I ended up reading. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I loved the audiobook. This was a German one. Just in case someone wants to listen to it, I don't know the English audiobook version of it, but I love the story. I don't know how this man does this, but why has the man the power to write this much and everything makes fucking sense? And you need to think about it, and you need to read this, and then you, of course you need to read this, you're reading a book. You think about this, okay, is this really necessary right now? And then this is necessary in the end of the book. Everything, there was nothing boring in the story for me, even though it was that long of a book. So all the time something happened, but also not, so you don't get overwhelmed with all the information and things that happen. And the most thing I love in this book is that there's a war in it. I mean, it's called The Way of Kings, and you have like this man on the cover with a sword in the hand. So of course it's war. And I love that this is not glorified in the story. So yeah, I can definitely recommend The Way of Kings to you. But if you're not that into fantasy, I would say read something different first and then come back to The Way of Kings. But I would say for a high fantasy book, this is a great beginning. I love it. I read the second book of a German book series. This is, when you are German and watching this currently, check out the German version of this video, because I will talk about this more in depth. But I read this in while doing a read along with the author on her Instagram channel, because this last book of the series was released in October of the last year, and I really I read this for the first time then, and I love the story. I was just so overwhelmed about what happened, all the informations you get. You read the first book, and when you read the first book, you think about, okay, how can you have 6 characters in one story, and then you read about them and what they're doing and what they think, and you think, how does all the people meet in the end? And then you read the second one, and I was like, okay, I just love how this all turned out. And yeah, and then I read the third one. But I don't want to talk a lot about this in this video, because it's only out in German, so only the German part people can read it. Or if you can read German, I would say go for it. I will combine these two because it's from the same series. I read in December for the Coaster Town. I wanted to read Rage and Ruin as the next book in the series. I did it and I love it, but I started it and I realized I don't nothing about it anymore, so I reread Storm and Fury, and I changed my rating from 4 to 5 stars, and I just loved these 2 books. So the Harbinger series is a sequel to the Dark Element series. So in the Dark Element series you have Lila and Roth first, the both 2 characters. In the Harbinger series you will follow Zane, who was also mentioned in, not only mentioned, he was part of the Dark Element series. He was the from the main characters' best friend and first love interest. This is no spoiler, this is already in the synopsis of the first book of it. And then in the Harbinger series you will read what happened afterwards, and I just love it. I just love the relationship between Zane and Trinity. I just love how the whole story was built up and what the plot was. I just genuinely love it. And the second one was even better. Look at it, how I tapped this shit. I just loved it. It was so hilarious, and even all the purple ones in it, like, this was stuff that I loved about. I didn't think that I loved about a book so much like I did in Rage and Ruin. This was so modern also in this way, and this is something I didn't read in quite a while. So this plays in the real world, like in this actual time, and you read about the characters talking about the stuff that are real things, like Instagram, TikTok. Okay, TikTok was, I think, not part of it, but you get it, Snapchat and stuff like that, and this made it just more fun to read about, because every time I read a young adult book, they always talk about stuff like, yeah, this was maybe cool and modern in, I think, in the beginning of the 2000s, but not anymore. No one watches Buffy anymore. Like, I don't want to break it to you. If you like Buffy, I watched the first season, I think last year or 2 years ago, and it was funny, but it's not that series anymore that everyone watches now, okay? And this was great. I can recommend it to you. You can read the Harbinger series without reading the Dark Element series. This is a whole different story and plot to it, but you will meet. There's only one thing I would say. It could be cool to read the Dark Element series first, to understand it, but I really enjoyed this. And Grace and Glory is not here. I read it because there was one thing in it that I didn't really like in it, so this is why not in the end of 5 stars. But overall the series is good. Read it. The last fantasy book is Glasswood, and I would say I read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I think it was in the end of 2020. I picked it up because everyone on Book Talk talks about it, and this was a YA fantasy book that I didn't pick up when it first came out. I probably could read it, but it didn't really bother me that way. And then I read Red Queen, and it was okay. It was an okayish YA fantasy. It was a YA fantasy, so this is why I thought, okay, maybe I will continue the series, but there's nothing really special about it for me. And then I read Glasswood, and when I tell you that I was blown away, this was fucking amazing for me. First of all, the character turn of Mare in the story. You get into this world where Mare has red blood, and there are people, normal humans with red blood, and there are people in this world with silver blood, and the silver bloods have special powers. And of course the silvers with the special powers, with the special abilities, think that the people with the red blood are not worth it, so they just put them down and try to make them slaves and that kind of stuff. And then Mare with red blood, she has also abilities, but she doesn't have silver blood. She has red blood. And so the king, because everyone saw that she has abilities but red blood, they say, okay, she is the next Red Queen. So that the people that are living in this world was red blood, they are angry that they live in this poor world that they currently living in, to be like, hey, look at it, there's one like you, she was grown up as a red, so she understands you. But of course this takes a turn, because how long you can make a group of people small without them fight back. And this is where we ended up in Glasswood. And when I tell you, this was amazing, the plot in it, how Mare's character changed, and I think she is the YA version of a morally grey character who is the chosen one. And this was so funny. I really love it, and I would say you all can read it. I would say it's a little bit of a journey to get to Red Queen, but afterward this world is kind of different. And what I noticed while reading Victoria Aveyard's book is that it takes some time for the story to build up. It's a slow burn story, and I really enjoyed it in this setting. This was it. This was all the fantasy books. And now we get to my only 2 contemporary books. I would say they're contemporary. So the first one that I read was Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is this prequel to The Hate You Give. But I didn't read The Hate You Give so far. I will definitely read it. But I think that's the story about her father, when I'm honest. I googled it because I was like, why is this book 0 according to Goodreads? It's because it's the prequel. So I think that's the father of the girl in The Hate You Gave. And I love the story. First of all, I was confused about the timeline in it, because it didn't say it in the beginning, but he has a Walkman and a peeper, and I was like, in which setting are we in? it's the beginning, it's the end of the 90s, so that's why he has a Walkman and a peeper, because you had those things in the end of the 90s. And I really like the writing style of Angie Thomas, and that I like the story. The only thing that I didn't like in it, but this is, I think that was a problem of the translation into German, that there were a few parts in it when the main character talked about something and the publishers choose to let a few sentences in English still in the book. So I could read it, but I think if people don't know English, it would be kind of disappointing to read it. In the end, there was a translation in the back for shonens. I need to look this up, the glossar in it, because I didn't know some terms in it, and or slangs that they choose, and this was about 5 pages long. So, but I really enjoyed the story, and I'm so excited to read The Hate You Give so far as the next book from Angie Thomas. I can definitely recommend this to you. The last book on the contemporary list is They Both Die at the End by Adam Severa. I know, I heard a lot of mixed reviews about this. Some people, there's only people that are liking this book and some people that are hating this book, according to that what I saw on TikTok or on Goodreads. And I say, I loved it. I really liked the concept of the world. I didn't know what I wanted. I think in the end, I think it would be cool and kind of fun to read about why there are these people that are calling the people that are dying in the next 24 hours. I would definitely wouldn't know that, but for the story, it's not necessary, because there are 2 17-year-old boys who get a call on the 5th September that they are dying in the next 24 hours. There's Rufus and Matteo, and Matteo is one of those boys. He has anxiety, he doesn't have much friends, he didn't really experience some things, and this is the moment he totally loses it and search things, what can I do in the next 24 hours where I live. And he goes to this chat room where he texts the people who also goes in this chat room, because maybe they're also dying in the next 24 hours, or there are people that are still living but want to help people in this chat room to make the best out of the next 24 hours. And this is where he meets Rufus, who's the second boy who get that call. And they both try to experience some things they both want to do, and they do it together so they can save each other to not dying that fast in that process. And this was so fun to read, and they've both together, and I think in the end I cried so much in the end because it was so sad, and the way the book ended, this book has my heart and I really like it. So if you want a sad reading and you don't really need necessarily word building but characters, I would definitely recommend this to you. This was it. This was the first part of this kind of best books of 2021. You see, I may have given 3 very popular books a 1-star rating, but my 5 stars, come on, they're fucking amazing. Look at them. So yeah, this was the first part. First, I also want to mention I have a new sweatshirt. I love it. It's really hot in here. So yeah, this was the first part of this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you may have also books on this list that are also your favorites, and I hope you read some of my favorites because I love them. And then if you like this video, please make sure to give a thumb up. Maybe you can follow me if you want to. My social media is down in the description down below if you want to follow me there, so you can keep up with my readings, because maybe you noticed, but I didn't do a TBR video or a wrap up for December. I think it's too late for a wrap up for December, so we will ignore that. So yeah, please stay tuned for the next video when I talk about my romance, thrillers and one non-fiction. There's one non-fiction book on this list, and then I will see you. Bye!